To me, developing spiritual maturity is developing the skill of discernment, so that you don't have to go only by a rule book, and anything that's not in the rule book, you simply don't have an answer. If, for example, there is no verse in the Bible that says it's okay to go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit if you're in a hurry or on the way to the hospital, well, of course the Bible couldn't say that. There were no cars to be concerned with at the time the Bible was written. That's where a minister's primary job comes down to the development of discernment, that teaching people how to think through things and pick wise and loving situations without giving them an additional rule book to follow, because in very short order it would wind up being too many rules for any person to remember, and the book would be so thick we couldn't possibly carry it around with us. Which brings us back to that point of discernment, that we need to ultimately build the faith inside of ourselves. And to do that, occasionally there may be a need for a minister. And that's where we again exercise discernment, trying to find the minister that will most effectively empower us within the situation we're facing. And recognizing that sometimes it won't be the minister that to whom we've come with all of our challenges throughout our lives. It may be somebody totally new. There may be a total stranger in the supermarket or the grocery store who says just the right thing, and for that moment becomes your minister in a way that you should really listen and not dismiss it simply because, well, that person wasn't ordained, that person was just the cashier. If what that person said made sense to you and had the ring of truth deep in your heart, that this is right on, this tells me exactly what I need to do, and I know what I need to do. The fact that it didn't come from a minister is not an excuse to ignore the clear communication, clear in the sense that you have confidence, you heard correctly, you know what you're supposed to do, but in some cases we look for excuses not to do it. Because it will cost, or it will hurt, or it will be uncomfortable, it'll be inconvenient. Underneath it all, in matters of faith, there is something deeper, more beautiful, more important, more real, more enduring, that says you do it because it's right, not because someone will reward you, not because it feels good. You do it because it's the right thing to do, that it has to do with truth, that it has to do with love, that it has to do with maintaining the sacredness of each person and of the earth in which we live. Maintaining the sacredness of whoever and whatever we are and whatever is around us as being, in a sense, gifts from God to work out the living of this life, to find a bigger, brighter, more loving, wiser sense of self than we would have had before. Hopefully, the minister that you find at that moment, and if you have no minister, the prayer time, because a minister isn't necessarily even a person. It could also be your own journaling. You could be your own minister. It could be your own time of meditation. It could be your own simple childlike prayer uttered in faith, and then simply stepping back and waiting to see what happens, to see how God will answer, to see whether God will show up, or whether there is something about the present time that you're supposed to, that the present time is designed to leave you in a place of greater spiritual focus, of wanting something from God, such that by the time an answer comes, you've learned to listen much better than you knew how to do before. Or perhaps you've learned to speak much better than you did before. Perhaps you've learned to take a stand for what you believe. If there's absolutely nothing for which you would take a stand, nothing that you would die for, nothing that is important enough to you, what purpose is faith serving in your life to begin with? On the other hand, how many other hands is that by now? On the other hand, if what you need right now is a social institution, is a sense of family, is a sense of community around you, there are ministers in churches who are very efficient and effective and expert at doing that. If what you need at the moment is spiritual growth, there are ministerial services available that can do that. But you have to have sufficient self-awareness to figure out what it is you need. And if you don't know, you can even throw that up in prayer. I don't know what I need, God, but I'm feeling like something's lacking. Please help me to figure out what it is. And then wait and trust. And as you learn to listen, as you learn to trust, I believe the answer will come. That those who have asked God to manifest, to guide them, to show them something better than what they've experienced so far, that the divine will answer by some means, and that you will know what it is you need to do. If you are patient until the answer comes. Sometimes it takes a few days, a few weeks to develop, but it does always come.